Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 14 based on novel. So let's start. This was a fairly dark room. Within the room, a dim flame was dancing. The light from the flame was suppressed by darkness until it became extremely weak. When one's line of sight expanded, it was possible to see a couple of black figures present within the darkness. They seemed to be seated around a circular table. Large black robes covered their bodies while an insidious aura slowly spread from within their bodies. The atmosphere within the room was quite pressurizing. It was a long while later before that seated black figure suddenly extended his sleeve. A pale hand landed on the table and gently tapped on it. The Fire Crystal Ape King is dead. A hoarse voice was suddenly emitted from under the black robes. Yes, even those demon apes were completely finished off and not a single one of them was spared. It was likely done by those Dao sect disciples. Since when did they become so vicious? A black figure within the room moved a little before speaking in a deep voice. For Dao sect's disciples just arrived 2 days ago. It is likely related to them. It is likely that the immortal Yuan ancient tree has also been discovered by them. That black figure was quiet for a moment before speaking in a hoarse voice. Chief, should we attack? Based on the strength of the Dao sect disciples at the mineral vein, it will be very easy for us to snatch the immortal Yuan ancient tree. A black figure inquired. If it is an ordinary faction, it is fine to attack them at any time. However, this is the Dao sect. If we do not know whether there is a seed within the immortal Yuan ancient tree, there is no need for us to attack. Just a couple of immortal Yuan ancient fruits might be valuable, but it is not worthwhile to anger the Dao sect because of them. The black figure at the leader's seat waved his pale hand and said, "We'll wait for a few days. If there is really a seed within the immortal Yuan ancient tree, it will cause quite a commotion. Quietly dispatch some people around the mines and monitor them closely. If there is a seed within the immortal Yuan ancient tree?" A person asked softly. If there is a seed. The leading black figure's body leaned forward slightly. That black robe was lifted, revealing a pale and shady face. He parted his mouth and smiled before he spoke in a dense manner. Then, those fellows can only blame themselves for being unlucky. Kill anyone who dares to obstruct us. If I obtain the seed of the immortal Yuan ancient tree and hand it to Yuan Gate, all my previous sins will be forgiven. At that time, so what if the Dao sect becomes furious? Don't tell me that they will dare to charge up to Yuan Gate. The couple of black figures trembled as they looked at the bloodthirstiness that climbed onto his face. Immediately, they parted their mouths and laughed in a savage manner. The tree branches spread apart in the midair and blocked the light that scattered downwards, forming traces of light spots that shone on a couple of human figures seated below. A ray of light shone on Lindong's face before his gently shut eyes slowly opened up. After which, he looked at the black tree in front of him. At this moment, the 5 bright red fruits hanging on the tree were becoming increasingly vibrant and they looked just like ripe fruits. Should be soon. Lindong softly muttered. A trace of mental energy surged out from his Niwen palace. After which, it feedbacked any activity within this forest. With his mental energy, he could sense 10 powerful auras that were lurking within the forest. They were all Dao sect disciples. Furthermore, there was also quite a number of Dao sect's disciples tightly patrolling the area further away. Lindong's mental energy was swiftly withdrawn. A small pair of boots suddenly appeared on the ground in front of him. He was startled for a moment before raising his head. After which, he saw Ying Huan with her hands behind her. She was staring downwards at him from an angle above. Her bright and beautiful eyes were filled with liveliness. Jiang Kuan and Yuan Ling were chatting softly a short distance away. However, their eyes would occasionally drift towards Lindong. Of course, most of the time, their eyes lingered on the young lady wearing a white blouse and green pants. One could easily tell that the both of them fancied her. Your mental energy is quite good. The young lady stared at Lindong under the observation of those two. Immediately she smiled. She had actually detected Lindong's mental energy probing around the place. Lindong smiled in a non-committal manner while his heart felt a little surprised by Ying Huan's sharp senses. His mental energy was usually quite well hidden. Unless it was someone who was well versed with mental energy cultivation, else, it would be extremely difficult to sense his mental energy probing. Although I mainly focus on my Yuan power cultivation, my mental energy is also quite decent. Although it is not as strong as yours, I have survived one wind lightning trial. Ying Huan appeared to be aware of Lindong's doubts as she laughed immediately. Lindong's brows involuntarily twitched at this moment. Clearly, he did not expect that this young lady in front of him was actually training in both Yuan power and mental energy at the same time. He immediately came to a sudden realization within his heart, no wonder her zither sound is so mysterious. It seems like it is partly because of mental energy. It is always good to be cautious, Lindong softly said. He also understood that Ying Huan was aware of what he was using his mental energy for. Originally, I thought that this is going to be an ordinary mission. I never expected it to become so troublesome. Ying Huan sat down beside Lindong. Her eyes stared at the black ancient tree before she immediately laughed. However, I am glad things turned out this way. If we are really able to obtain the immortal ancient tree seed, it will be extremely beneficial for our Dao sect. There will be countless disciples who will benefit from it in the future, and our Dao sect will also become stronger. Lindong was startled for a moment when he heard these words. There was not the slightest greed on the face of this young lady when she spoke. Despite the immense allure of the immortal Yuan ancient tree, the first thing that she thought of was actually their sect. Lindong curled his lips slightly and his eyes were somewhat complicated. He had clearly been through a lot more compared to Ying Huan. His experiences during these years caused him to be extremely cautious. Although he currently had an extremely good impression of Dao sect, his first thought when he realized the value of the immortal Yuan ancient tree was honestly not how he could help the Dao sect to obtain it. He might not be much older than Ying Huan, but he was definitely nowhere as innocent as she was. Of course, if Lindong still had that mentality after all that he had been through over the years, perhaps he would not have the chance to reach this stage. Lindong's mouth was involuntarily lifted into an arc as he looked at the heartfelt joy on the young lady's face. A sect that was able to command the hearts of its members were the truly powerful ones. The competition between the super sects in Eastern Xian region is extremely intense. If the strength of our sect can be increased, our seniors would also gain additional protection when they are outside. Ying Huan fondled her snow-white smooth chin with her hand. Her dark black ponytail fell onto her shoulders. Immediately, she seemed to have thought of something and suddenly rolled her eyes at Lindong. You are very talented. If you had joined Sky Hall, your future accomplishments will definitely be spectacular. Thankfully, you did quite well in Desolate Hall. Otherwise, I will really be too lazy to bother with someone like you, who makes decisions randomly based on your own preferences. Lindong smiled. However, he did not provide too much explanation on this matter. Finally, he understood that Ying Huan did not purposefully find fault with him during the hall selection stage. Instead, she became furious over what she deemed to be his seemingly irresponsible decision. Currently, it was difficult for him to place the sect as the most important thing in his heart like Ying Huan. However, he understood her perspective as well. Rest assured. If this immortal Yuan ancient tree really has a seed, we will definitely bring it back. Lindong softly said. Ying Huan smiled sweetly. Her smile was extremely alluring as she curled her red lips and nodded heavily. Hey, what are the two of you talking about? Jian Kuan and Yuan Ling finally could not help themselves and decided to head over. Though they sounded nonchalant, there was a tinge of jealousy within their voices. This involuntarily caused Lindong to gently chuckle. He was just about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. He abruptly lifted his head before he stared at the immortal Yuan ancient tree. The 5 fruits hanging on it had begun to tremble slightly. The fruits are about to ripen. Immediately, Ying Huan and the others also realized it. A tense yet joyous expression surged on their faces. Lindong's eyes focused on the immortal Yuan ancient tree. A shocking energy ripple was being continuously scattered from it. Even the land itself was trembling slightly. The 5 bright red fruits also began to tremble more intensely. In the next instant, they suddenly trembled violently before they actually fell from the tree. Lindong waved his hand. A suction force erupted and sucked the 5 immortal Yuan ancient fruits into his hand. However, he did not have the time to digest them at the moment. Everyone was completely focused on the immortal Yuan ancient tree. After the fruits fell, the energy ripple that was being emitted from the tree did not show any signs of weakening. Rich green light spread from its roots. At the same time, a rich life force appeared to be emitted from within it. A joy immediately surged within the eyes of Ying Huan's group when they saw this scene. The immortal Yuan ancient tree trembled. Suddenly, a green light appeared on the tree branch. The shocking life force was emitted from within this green light. Immortal Yuan ancient seed. A wild joyous sound was directly being emitted from Jiang Kuan's mouth. Lindong's eyes were focused intently on the unusual green light. His eyes suddenly shrunk. The immortal Yuan ancient tree suddenly trembled intensely when his eyes shrunk. A thick green light suddenly spluttered from the top of the tree. Finally, it broke through the forest and shot directly towards the clouds. Lindong's expression instantly turned gloomy when he saw this scene. The green light pillar broke through the forest and entered the clouds. Like an enormous green light barrier, it descended from the sky. The commotion that it caused could clearly be seen everywhere within a 50-kilometer radius. Lindong's expression turned grim when he saw this scene as he deeply breathed in. Looks like it was going to be impossible to quietly bring the immortal Yuan ancient seed back to the Tao sect. By his side, the joy on the faces of Ying Huan and the others also swiftly disappeared at this moment, while panic flashed across their eyes. In the forest, Yuan Fang was also alarmed by this commotion. Bringing a dozen disciples with her, she rushed over, only to end up sighing when she saw the expression on everyone's faces. Has this news been transmitted back? Lindong swiftly collected himself and asked in a solemn voice. It should have reached them. However, regardless of how fast they are, it is likely that reinforcements can only arrive by tomorrow. Yuan Fang laughed bitterly, pausing for a moment before continuing. Additionally, there is an extremely bad piece of news. Earlier, we discovered the traces of some people around the mines. If I am not wrong, they are likely from the Devil Seal Mass. Devil Seal Mass. The expressions of Ying Huan and the others changed when they heard these words. Who are they? Lindong frowned and asked. A faction that is quite infamous within the Blood Rock grounds. Their leader is called Yao Ling and is ranked 4th on the sect's wanted list. He has likely reached the formidable 9 Yuan Nirvana stage. Ying Huan gritted her silver teeth and replied. 9 Yuan Nirvana stage. Lindong's expression changed slightly at this moment. This place was indeed worthy of being the Eastern Xian region. Just any random criminal they encountered actually possessed such power. Yao Ling was once a deacon of the Yuan Gate. However, he was expelled after committing a major crime. However, he possessed quite an extraordinary background. As such, the enforcement unit of Yuan Gate was lax in chasing after him. All these years, he has been living in Blood Rock grounds and he is quite infamous. Yuan Fang added. It is unexpected that we have been targeted by them, Jiang Kuan spoke with quiet anger. There are 3 cities within a 50-kilometer radius of our mines. These cities are extremely chaotic and are filled with all sorts of people. With such a huge commotion, it will definitely end up attracting the attention of many. Should news of the immortal Yuan ancient seed spread, then, Yuan Fang's face turned unusually grave as she spoke. Harvest the seed. Lindong knitted his brows tightly and spoke in a deep voice. Yes. Ying Huan nodded. She did not dare to hesitate as she swiftly stepped forward. Her hand directly penetrated into the light pillar and grabbed the brightest glowing spot within it. After Ying Huan grabbed the glowing spot and withdrew her hand, the enormous light pillar finally gradually disappeared, while Lindong also looked over. At this moment, there was a round dark green seed lying quietly in Ying Huan's palm. The surface of the seed appeared to have some naturally formed symbols on it. A shocking life force was continuously being emitted from within. Is this the seed of the immortal Yuan ancient tree? Lindong glanced at the black tree. After the seed was extracted, the dark green luster that had originally covered its branches also disappeared. Meanwhile, its life force had also significantly diminished. Its black trunk appeared to be made of metal and its branches were just like icy cold metal branches. An old, hardy and icy cold feeling spread from it. Lindong stared at it. His eyes moved slightly as he extended his hand and felt it. When his hand touched the black icy cold tree branch, he suddenly felt the Yuan power circulating within his body turn sluggish. It was as if it had been suppressed by something. His heart immediately became slightly startled. The immortal Yuan ancient tree trunk possessed the mysterious effect of suppressing various types of energy. Only by touching its roots can one avoid this suppressing effect. However, it is too heavy. Even experts who specialize in physical strength are unable to swing it around as they please. Ying Huan appeared to be aware of what Lindong was thinking and explained. Oh. Lindong's brows twitched upon hearing this. He took a step forward as his foot stomped violently on the ground. The ground in front of him was directly cracked apart, revealing the black roots that were entangled below the immortal Yuan ancient tree. Lindong bent his body and extended his hands, grabbing the thickest black root. A bone-chilling icy cold feeling seeped out. It is heavy indeed. Lindong tugged the tree roots. However, he was surprised to discover that this immortal Yuan ancient tree did not budge an inch despite his formidable strength. However, the more difficult it was, the stronger Lindong's interest grew. Promptly, he clenched both his hands tightly as the veins on his arms started to wiggle. One could vaguely catch sight of some green dragon scales appearing on his arms as a majestic strength quietly erupted. Bang! After Lindong unleashed his dragon-like strength, that large immortal Yuan ancient tree, which was dozens of feet in height, was actually directly uprooted by Lindong before the stunned gazes of Ying Huan's group. Lindong grabbed the root of the large tree and swung it down violently. The air in front of him immediately exploded. An invisible energy erupted from it, directly causing a wide large crack to be ripped open on the ground in front of him. Such a good item. Lindong involuntarily parted his mouth and smiled when he saw how powerful this object was. With a wave of his hand, he stored the immortal Yuan ancient tree in his Qiankun bag in an unceremonious manner. After which, he raised his head only to find Ying Huan staring at him with a strange expression. Even though his skin was thick, Lindong's face could not help but redden a little when he saw this. He coughed dryly and was just about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. Immediately, he raised his head and slowly said, "Trouble is coming." Lindong's body moved after he spoke. He rushed upwards, breaking through the forest canopy as he appeared in the sky above the forest. He gaze swept around and finally paused on a spot in the distance. Dozens of black figures were quietly hovering there. Numerous shady and cold gazes were locked onto Lindong's group from under those black robes. A fluctuation appeared in the forest below. Ying Huan, Jian, and the rest swiftly rushed out before stopping beside Lindong. Their eyes also looked towards the front. Devil seal mass, it is indeed those bastards. When Yuan Fang saw the dozens of black figures, her eyes darkened as she cursed. There are still quite a number of people heading towards to our location. They are likely the experts and factions nearby that have been alerted. Lindong's mental energy spread outwards. Immediately, he exhaled a deep breath of air. He could sense some slight rushing wind sounds from the distant sky as some faint auras began to appear one after another. There were some Dao sect disciples occasionally rushing over in the forest below. Their numbers were not few and totaled to 100 people. However, Lindong knew that if news of this immortal Yuan ancient seed was to spread, just these numbers alone would not be enough to deter everyone. Ha, Yuan Fang, there are some things that cannot be hidden. Obediently surrender the immortal Yuan ancient seed. Otherwise, blood will flow like a river today. A person in front pulled apart his black robes, revealing a dark and cold middle-aged face. He was smiling strangely as he stared at Yuan Fang and spoke. Sulei, you actually dare to target something that belongs to our Dao sect. Yuan Fang's eyes were icy cold as she cried out. Heh, as long as we obtain the immortal Yuan ancient seed, our chief can naturally use it to exchange for a great reward from the Yuan gate. What can your Dao sect do then? The middle-aged person called Sulei laughed sinisterly. That fellow is the second in command of the Devil Seal Mass, Sulei. People call him Lightning Blade. He is at the 8 Yuan Nirvana stage. Ying Huan whispered beside Lindong. There are 6 core members in the Devil Seal Mass. They are all people on the sect's wanted list. Other than Sulei, the remaining 4 all have the strength of the 7 Yuan Nirvana stage. Their chief, he hasn't revealed himself. Lindong's eyes swept across the group of black figures before remarking. Yeah. That fellow is extremely cunning. However, with the Devil Seal Mass launching such a huge operation, he is definitely hiding somewhere nearby. Ying Huan said. Lindong nodded quietly. He immediately raised his head before his eyes looked towards the distant sky. Numerous black spots were flying over at a rapid pace. Moments later, they finally turned into numerous figures that appeared in the sky. Suspicious eyes looked towards Lindong's group. When he saw an increasing number of experts rushing over, Lindong's heart sank even further. The situation was only deteriorating. The sound of wind splitting continuously resounded over the skies above the mines. Lindong's group watched as numerous figures with powerful auras walked through the skies towards them, before finally coming to a stop and hovering in the skies above the mines. Lindong watched the figures that had rushed over from the skies as his expression gradually turned solemn. He could sense a rather formidable and oppressive pressure from their bodies. Evidently, none of them were ordinary individuals. We are in trouble. Yuan Fang's face also gradually turned ugly because of these newcomers. Soon after, she clenched her teeth and softly whispered. Do you know these people? Lindong softly inquired. Yuan Fang laughed bitterly and said, Look at the northern area, the one in green is called Xiao Tian. People call him the eroding demon hand. He is 5th on the sect's wanted list and an 8 Yuan Nirvana stage expert. Lindong looked over and sure enough, he caught sight of a person clad in green. He appeared to be around 30 years old, was rather tall and had quite a handsome face. However, an evil aura lingered around him. At this moment, both his hands were placed behind his back, his gaze containing some suspicion as they locked onto Lindong's group. That fellow to the south is known as Luo Yi. People call him the Butcher. He is ranked 6th on the sect's wanted list and is also at the 8 Yuan Nirvana stage. Lindong's gaze shifted and was slightly taken aback. He saw a white-clothed man that looked extremely scholarly. His face was pale and the so-called Butcher nickname did not suit him at all. However, Lindong would naturally not judge a book by its cover. Although the white-clothed man wore a smile on his face, Lindong could sense a faint bloody scent from his body. One could tell that this fellow was quite a vicious character. There are still a few who are quite infamous around the Blood Rock grounds, Yuan Fang bitterly said. It seemed like it would not be an easy matter to successfully escape today. Lindong sighed quietly within his heart. However, he did not panic. He had experienced far too much over the years. What kind of dangers had he not faced before? Although they were in a rather grave situation now, it was not so easy to force Lindong into a dead end. While these thoughts swirled in Lindong's mind, he suddenly felt something cold on his palm. A round ice-cold object had been pushed into his palm, causing him to be startled. He was just about to speak when a pretty young lady's face appeared in front of him. Lindong, you must bring the seed back no matter what. Ying Huan gently bit down with her silver teeth. There was a resolve on her face that did not match her age. Clearly, she could also tell that the current situation was quite dire. Lindong knitted his brows slightly but did say anything. He merely flipped his hand and stored the seed into his Qiankun bag, before he softly said, Don't worry. Things have not reached that stage yet. Even if the situation reaches that point, there is no need for a girl like you to bear that burden. Can anyone tell me what just happened? What was the green light from before? Just as Lindong's voice faded, the white-clothed person in the distance, whom others called the butcher, Luo Yi, grinned and asked Yuan Fang's group. Yuan Fang's expression changed slightly, but she did not reply. Clearly, she did not wish to leak news of the immortal Yuan ancient seed. Hehe, I've heard it's an immortal ancient Yuan seed. However, Su Lei from the Devil Seal Mass laughed in a strange manner while Yuan Fang remained quiet. He was not worried that the seed would be snatched by others should news of it be leaked. Clearly, he had great confidence in the power of their group. Yuan Fang's expression changed drastically as fury surged within her eyes. An uproar broke out in the sky when his words sounded out, while greed surged in the eyes of many. A person licked his lips and laughed. It is unexpected that there would actually be such a treasure here. Luo Yi was similarly startled due to the so-called immortal Yuan ancient seed. Immediately, an intrigued expression surfaced on his face. He stared at Yuan Fang and said, I have never seen an immortal Yuan ancient seed before. Could Miss Yuan Fang kindly take it out and allow me to broaden my horizons? Yuan Fang's expression turned cold. She was just about to speak when Lindong stepped out from beside her. He stared at Luo Yi, but he did not say anything unnecessary. Mental energy spread out at lightning speed, quickly scanning everyone's faces. Brat, what are you doing? Luo Yi was startled by Lindong's action. Immediately, his eyes turned cold as he cried out. Lindong ignored him. He waved his sleeve and his mental energy transformed into numerous light curtains in front of him. On the light curtains were faces drawn with mental energy. They belonged to Luo Yi's and the rest. Lindong's sleeves trembled. Numerous jade stones flew out. Promptly, he imprinted his mental energy with everyone's faces into those jade stones. With a wave of his hand, the 100 over jade stones flew into the hands of the Dao sect's disciples below. Everyone, regardless of what happens today, as long as one person returns to Dao sect and hands the jade stone to the elders, I think that they will know what to do. Lindong's low and deep voice spread out in the sky and was transmitted into everyone's ears. The expressions of the mob in the sky changed a little when they heard his words. Their eyes flickered and rapidly alternated between viciousness and hesitation. Lindong's tactic was truly vicious. He had directly imprinted the faces of everyone present and used the Dao sect's name as a deterrence. Although the people here were not ordinary individuals, the Dao sect was one of the 8 great super sects and one of the overlords of the Eastern Xian region. If the fury of the Dao sect really poured down on them, it was likely that none of them had the ability to resist. What a ruthless fellow! However, aren't you afraid that we will be equally ruthless and butcher all of you? The corner of Luo Yi's eyes twitched a little. He stared directly at Lindong before he chuckled coldly. Come and try if you have the ability to do so. Lindong took a step forward, his expression immediately turning savage. A shockingly vicious aura spread out from within his body, causing quite a number of these ruthless characters, who had even taken lives before, to feel fearful. Why did this Dao sect disciple seem even more vicious than them? Beside him, Yuan Fang, Ying, Huan and the rest glanced at each other. They could clearly see the hesitation on their faces. All of them secretly sighed. It seems like in order to deal with these vicious characters, they had to be even more ruthless than them. Times are really changing. A mere 5 Yuan Nirvana stage brat actually dares to act so arrogantly in front of me. Could it be that the disciples taught by the Dao sect these days all don't know their limits? A cruel expression flashed across Luo Yi's pale white face at this moment. His tone had also become sinister. A short distance away, Su Lei and the others observed this scene with a cold smile. However, they did not attack immediately. Everyone, all of you here are fairly famous individuals. Don't tell me that you are actually intimidated by this brat. Luo Yi turned his head. He looked to the many figures hovering in the sky as he sneered. Some people frowned when they heard his words. While varying thoughts ran through their minds, Xiao Qian, that green-clothed man nicknamed Eroding Demon Hand, slowly stepped forward. The 5th on the sect's wanted list had quite a solid reputation in this place. Hence, quite a number of people turned to look when he walked forward, and even Luo Yi's eyes become a little more serious. Yuan Fang and the rest looked at Xiao Qian with some anxiety. If the latter was to attack them at this moment, the situation would be completely disadvantageous to them. You are Ying Huan, right? However, under the crowd's attention, Xiao Qian's gaze paused on Ying Huan before he slowly opened his mouth and asked. Ying Huan gently knitted her brows. There was some doubt in her eyes. Clearly, she did not recognize him. Although I should interfere in today's matter given my character, I still owe your sister Ying Xiao a favor from back then, Xiao Qian spoke faintly. Yuan Fang's group sighed in relief when they heard his words. However, Luo Yi's and Su Lei's expressions darkened. The immortal Yuan ancient seed might be rare, but the Dao sect is no pushover either. I am unable to handle the weight of such an object. If you guys are interested, go ahead and snatch it. Xiao Qian's indifferent gaze swept over everyone before he suddenly withdrew. His manner clearly indicated that he had no intention to interfere. It is unexpected that even you, Xiao Qian, would be afraid of the super sects, Luo Yi coldly mocked. Xiao Qian glanced at him. An icy glint flashed within his eyes, but he did not respond. All right, since you lack the courage, I shall do it. I want to see just what gives this arrogant brat the qualifications to utter such words in front of me. Luo Yi strided forward. His finger pointed towards Lindong. Immediately, he curled it as a derisive smile appeared on his face. Brat, if you are able to handle 10 attacks from me, I will no longer interfere in this matter. What do you say? Lindong stared at Luo Yi. Immediately, a sinisterly cold arc slowly formed on his face. This video will end here.